We are here to engage people through the gift that has been put inside of us that is going to really change people's lives. That's going to change the world. And if you help enough people, and if your focus is on helping enough people, you'll never have to worry about how much money you're making. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the most exciting 45 minutes of your day. I'm just kidding. I have no idea how long this is going to be because this is episode 1 of the Stage and Strategy podcast. And you know what? I'm sitting here in my new apartment, starting something new, starting a new season. And not just a new season of Stage and Strategy, but a new season of life for me and a new season of my journey. And you know what? It's really appropriate to start Stage and Strategy here and now, because we're going to talk about my journey. We're going to talk about the things that are happening in my life, but also the things that are happening in your life and how to engage all the things that we're doing together. Because I'm Jonathan. I am a composer, arranger, and a music industry entrepreneur based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And you know what? Life's been pretty crazy for the last several months, but it's been a crazy journey to get where we are. I am launching Stage and Strategy as a part of a bigger launch that we're doing this fall, that I'm doing in preparation for the launch of Stronger Music Company, which is my publishing company that I've been working on. I moved here 3 years ago to Nashville to launch a publishing company, and it's taken 3 years to really feel like, okay, now's the time to get on that path and to really do this thing. And we'll talk about my story and why this podcast exists here in a second. But first of all, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about what Stage and Strategy is and how it's going to impact you and how hopefully help you. That's the goal here, right? Is that it's going to help and really engage you and who you are. Well, let's talk about that. First of all, I am a musician, creative, entrepreneur, arranger, player, artist, all the things, right? We wear so many hats. So if you're listening to this, you're probably an artist, a creative, some sort of artistic being in the artist world, right? That could be everything from business to creativity. And the one thing that I learned when I moved to Nashville 3 years ago is that nobody wears just one hat, right? Everybody wears like 7 hats. I'm wearing one hat today, but everybody wears like 7 different hats in this town. And honestly, I don't think that's a Nashville thing. I can't speak to any other town, but everybody wears like 7 hats, right? We're all our own manager. Well, we're all maybe our own boss. If you're lucky enough, you're a creative, you're a marketer, you're, I don't know, any number of things. You're, like I said, a manager, you're an agent, you're a people person, you're a social media expert, right? We're all trying to wear all these different hats and play all these different games and do all these different things. And that can be a lot. So Stage and Strategy is here to kind of engage both of those things. I think there's this idea, at least I felt like there was, especially coming out of college and going into the professional world, where there's almost these like this dichotomy of these 2 different ideas, that creativity lives in this land and business and planning and intentionality lives in this land. And there's very few people who know how to cross the bridge between the 2 of them. And that's simply not true, because everyone who's doing this thing for a living has to cross that bridge at some point. And so Stage and Strategy is a show dedicated to bridging those 2 things together, the creativity and the art and the beautiful work that is music and theater and stage work and entertainment and education and music and orchestras and bands. And there's just so much stuff that happens in the land of creativity. And then we need to marry that with this world of business, of advertising, of social media, of networking with people. Ooh, big word, right? We're going to talk about that and how to engage, and relationships, guys, and how important relationships are in the industry that we are in. And so whether you're a musician or an artist or an actor or a dancer or maybe just a freelance creative, this is the place for us. This is the place for you. And part of this is going to be my story and building this community of people that can rally around their own stories. And then part of that is going to be talking with other people, other creatives, other business people, other people that have done what I'm trying to do and what you're trying to do and possibly what you're doing. And so this is really just engaging creatives, musicians, and leaders who want to make art they love and build a sustainable path for it. This is not just a conversation of how to build a business and scale and be impactful without a heart and without a purpose and without a meaning. And I think the world needs a lot of that right now. The world needs to be reminded that there are really, really great causes to be passionate about, and there's a way to make money doing that. And so that's what Stage and Strategy podcast is, what the Stage and Strategy podcast is. So who am I? Well, I'm Jonathan. Like I said, I am a composer, arranger, and music industry entrepreneur. That's a really new title I'm like putting underneath my name because it kind of feels weird to call myself that, right? Like it feels weird to call myself an entrepreneur, but we all are as creatives, as full-time musicians, as full-time people in the music industry. We have to be business people. We have to learn how to run our lives and our brand whether you're an artist, as somebody who's more of a freelance, like I do a lot of arranging work and writing work. And like I said, I'm launching a publishing company. Wherever you fall on the spectrum, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person. And part of my story is that learning how to navigate all of those things together, how to navigate the creative part of who I am with the business part of who I am, and still learning, guys. I'm here in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, not because I know anything more than anybody else, but just because I'm willing to talk about the journeys and the experiences that I've had. And I do think those are impactful because, when I moved to Nashville, I didn't know anybody. I moved to Nashville 3 years ago last week. Like it's literally been like 3 years to the day. And that's one of the things that really excited me about starting this season. Because I moved into a new apartment. That's why I'm sitting on the couch. I don't think I'll do all of my episodes on the couch, but this is a new season for me. And when I moved here, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a job. We'll talk more about that experience later, but I just remember being so honestly scared and afraid, and I didn't know what in the world to do. And I think what I learned is about a year after that whole experience, meeting who are now some of my really close friends who had the same experiences that I did and literally had the same internal thoughts that I did about their move, about their experience, about how they were navigating their career and a new move and a new place. It was not a unique experience, how hard it was for all of us. And somehow I don't want to say it made it easier because it was after the fact, obviously, but somehow it was like almost comforting to know that like somebody else was going through what you were going through in a same way, in a totally different time than you were, right? To know that somebody else has experienced, let's be real, the suffering that you have, and also the joys, and walked through those seasons together. Like there's just a need to draw inspiration from other people like that. So that's what this podcast is about. And my story is that when I moved to Nashville, I thought it would be easy. To be honest with you, I really did. I thought, I kind of have my life together. I kind of know what I want. I'm not just, coming to, gig around everywhere. And no offense to people that come to Nashville to gig, but I wasn't. I had kind of already built my freelance business in college, and I moved to Nashville right out of college, also to pursue a graduate degree, and we'll talk about that later, but that's not specifically what this podcast is about, but that was kind of a part of that plan. And I had really done some great networking and had great relationships with people and really felt like I was prepared well for teaching and for performing and for leading and creating and all of these things. I never thought I'd be full-time in the music industry, but I felt like I was prepared well, and I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find the thing I was looking for here in Nashville. And so because I couldn't find a job, I couldn't find a place to live. I was waiting to find a job when I moved to Nashville. I couldn't figure out what it was that I was doing wrong, right? Like it was just like closed door after closed door after closed door. And I was waiting to find a job, to find a place to live so I could go to grad school, so I could live here, so I could do the whole thing. And so when I moved, I always put air quotes around the word moved because I really didn't for about 2.5 months. I lived in hotel rooms, and then I subletted from someone later on. But for 4 weeks, I lived in hotel rooms in Nashville, and I would go from hotel to hotel to hotel. I'd go live in a hotel for 3 or 4 days, drive home. And I grew up in Missouri, so it was like a 7-hour drive home, right? That was the most humbling experience in the world because I really felt strongly that I was supposed to be here. And my faith is a big part of my life and my world. And I really felt strongly in my spirit, like in a spiritual way, that I was supposed to be here, but nothing was moving, nothing was breaking, and doors just kept getting slammed in my face. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know. I was reaching out cold to everybody to find roommates to like do the thing, and my entire world just got turned upside down because I couldn't figure it out. I had never experienced a time in my life where I literally didn't know what to do. There were no options. I had no options because I couldn't afford. I mean, Nashville's an expensive city when we're talking about rent. Like it is. We're not talking, New York or LA, but it's an expensive city when it comes to renting. And when you come from, a small town in the Midwest where, I have friends from college that are paying like $500 a month to split an apartment. Like that doesn't exist in Nashville. Like it just doesn't. And that was a really, really hard season because I really thought maybe at some point things would just like click and, maybe I'd find a job or I would, be able to find a place to live. And it didn't. Nothing ever just flipped and clicked. But slowly and surely I walked through that season, and it took a long time. We're in year 3. I won't say it took 3 years, but we're in year 3. And when I moved here, I had this vision. Like I felt it in my soul that like, this is what I'm moving here to do. I'm moving here to start what is now Stronger Music Company. It's, I knew that. And it's taken 3 years to get to this point, which is really where I wish, like when I had this like dream of, moving to Nashville was a dream. Like the fact that I get to be here is a miracle. Like I thank the Lord for it every single day because I don't deserve to be here. Like people say that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't deserve to be here. This is by the grace of God that I'm able to sit here and talk about this experience. And still, it was really hard. And even with that rock solid vision, I had no idea where to start. And so that's where we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, where do you start when things look bleak? What do you do when you have all this inspiration, but you don't have the strategy? I think that's where a lot of people are. And we'll continue to talk about my story, but like, you guys don't want to just hear about my story. You want to hear, how do we get out of this thing? If you're stuck in a thing where you feel like you're up against a wall, or you got a closed door in front of you, or you just don't know what to do, how do you unite strategy with that to get out of that? How do you move through a hard season? Well, I think the main thing that if I could go back and tell myself 3 years ago anything, it would be that it gets better. And I know that sounds like such a cliche thing to say, is like, well, it gets better. But you really have to believe it, because I don't know that I did. I don't really know what kept me driving and kept me moving and working and actually got me to where I am. But I know, I remember thinking, I can't sit here. I have to keep moving. And so first of all, you have to have this belief inside of you that things are going to get better, and that because strategy is great, plans are great, but it's all about the drive inside of you to accomplish those plans. We all have, guys, me too. We have lists upon lists upon lists of plans and, things that we never executed. You have to move. You have to physically get up every day and do the thing that you don't want to do sometimes. And then in some seasons, it's wonderful. You're filled with this sense of passion and purpose. And some seasons you don't get that. Some seasons you have to walk, and you just have to be full of faith to make your way through the thing that you don't want to do. And that sucks. But if you want to get to the great, you have to push through the suck. I had a college professor that used to say, embrace the suck. It was a college band director. He would say, ETS, embrace the suck. And so you have to embrace the suck to get to the excellent, to get to the great. And the second thing I would say is that it's okay if you're in that season of like not knowing what in the world is going on and feeling like life's not what you wanted it to be or what you thought it was going to be. If I could go back and tell myself anything, I wish I could go back and tell myself it's okay to not have an answer. Like, it really is. I think all the times in my life where I really struggled to know what the next step was, I always felt like I had to have an answer. I always had to work something out. I always had to figure out how to make more money or how to meet more people or how to pursue the thing that I wanted. And to be honest, those plans never really worked out the way that I thought they were going to anyway. And so I wish I would have just told myself, it's okay to not have an answer right now. It's not okay to stop. It's not okay to stay stuck, but it's okay to not have an answer right now. That is okay. And if you don't have an answer right now, that's okay. Your job is to get up every morning and say, you know what? It's okay that I don't have an answer, but I'm going to do what I need to do today. And I'm going to walk out of that. I'm going to step into that. And so let's talk about strategy once you're out of that season, once you're working your way through that season, because guys, it is impossible to be a creative while your basic needs are not met, right? Like in education, I have a background in music education, and in college, we took all these classes about like the dichotomy of needs, right? The hierarchy of need, not dichotomy of needs, the hierarchy of needs. And we have this whole idea that students cannot learn unless they feel physically and emotionally safe, unless they're fed. If they're hungry and if they feel like they're in an unsafe space, they're not going to learn, right? The literal brain function drops, I think it's about like 30%, right? And so don't quote me on that. I need to like do a little fact check on that. But it's the same thing, guys. When you feel unsettled, when you don't feel safe, when you feel like I don't know where my next paycheck is coming from, where all of these things are happening. I think those are things we share in the artist community, right? We go through seasons of like, it's feast or famine. We go through seasons where it's like so much work, you literally like want to pull your hair out. And then, 3 months later, you're like, where in the world is the work? I want to pull my hair out. And so we have to embrace this creativity. We have to embrace this thing with strategy. We have to be strategic, because you can write 100 songs and never release one, right? Because you're too scared, or because they're not good enough, or because you were in a place that you weren't supposed to be writing, right? There's all of these things. You can dream of a show and never see it produced, right? We're going to talk about all of the experiences that I've had with like writing and producing and, working on projects. There's a whole hard drive of stuff that I'm sure that probably I worked on that will never get produced because it was not the right timing. I didn't accompany my creativity with strategy. And when you don't have a strategic plan, it leads to burnout. And burnout is the thief of all creativity. You cannot work in burnout. You cannot work when you feel unsafe. You cannot be creative when you feel unsafe or when you feel like you don't know where your next check is going to come from. You can't work like that, and you can't work when you're burnout. So how do we prevent burnout? How do we prevent burnout? Because it's critical, it's mission critical to what we are doing as artists, as entrepreneurs, that we prevent burnout. And part of that is we have to take a long, hard look at our lives and our schedules and our routines, and we have to determine, is the energy I'm putting into this worth it? Because some creative ventures that we once loved, I'm speaking from experience here, there are creative ventures that we once loved for their intrinsic value that we put into them. Right? We experienced something, we played music in a certain way, so we started creating music in that way. And now the energy we're getting back from it, the financial benefit we're getting back from it, is not enough to overpower the struggle and the difficulty and just the difficulty that it is to make music at a high level, right? I'm talking specifically about music, but like I said, this applies to all creatives, whether you're a content creator, a video person, a musician, an actor, a dancer. You have to find a way to create something that is engaging to your soul and your spirit and lights a fire in your belly and also gives you money to eat. That's the purpose of this podcast. When we talk about ways to engage the creative side of what you do, because you were made to be a creative. We were made by God to engage people and to change the world through music, through art, through theater, through dance, through all of these things. And we are in a world where you have to acknowledge capitalism and that you have to acknowledge you have to make money. And can I tell you, there are ways to do it. It is totally possible. We live in the best timeline for artists and entrepreneurs and creatives to make a living fair wage doing what they love to do. Unfortunately, that doesn't always include the same things that it did 30 years ago, right? Our world is changing, and we know that, right? Our economy is all over the place. Like, no matter what your opinions of it are, it's crazy. Like, growing up being a 20-year-old in today's world is insane. And as it is with anybody. But I'm just saying, like, being a 20-year-old in 2025 is insane in your 20s. And so we have to acknowledge the ways that worked for people 30 years ago may not work for us. But there are ways, there are pathways forward for us. There are strategic pathways forward for us to do what God has uniquely gifted us to do and put within us to pursue. And that is what we have to keep in mind. There are too many people that are just here to make a quick buck. And if you're just here to make a quick buck, you're never going to impact anybody. We are here to engage people through the gift that has been put inside of us, through the fire in our bellies, that is going to really change people's lives. That's going to change the world. And if you help enough people, and if your focus is on helping enough people, you'll never have to worry about how much money you're making. Now, I just said that. We got to be strategic. Because if your goal is to help enough people through, XYZ, through performing, we still have to look at that strategically. We still have to look at that as, how am I going to get enough money to eat? How am I going to get enough money to pay my rent? And that's going to be something that we dive deep into, these practical, real strategy guidelines in this podcast. When you execute and plan and view your life through a lens of passion, through a lens of strategy, the world opens up for you. There is not a way for you to be passive and still be passionate. Passive and passionate do not coexist in the same universe. Passion drives and leads. Passive sits on the sidelines. Passion renews and innovates. Passive allows things to go on unfixed. Passion is what guides creatives. Passiveness is what guides, or is what becomes, people who are lazy. Not even just lazy, people who are frustrated, people who are burnt out. And so that's full circle, right? That's why it's so important that you cannot live a life, have a routine where it's unsustainable. We have to find sustainability in our lives. For me, recently, brand new season, that to me has been running. I'm getting into running. I used to say, if I am running, you better look behind me because somebody's chasing me. Like, I hated it with a passion. And then one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this thing. You know what it was? I really wanted to meet more people. I was like, there's a lot of people my age in Nashville. I want to meet more people. I want to expand my circle. I want to meet more people, have more relationships with more people. Run clubs are a great way to do that. So I have not joined a run club yet, but I am running like every day. And it's part of me realizing that if I don't change my life, it's always going to stay the same. If I don't take the action to change my life, it's always going to stay the same. I have a nutritionist, and I've been working with her since like probably my junior year of college, and she is awesome. Her name's Donna. And about a year ago, I was just really feeling like fatigued after I would eat meals, and was just really struggling with like some health things. And I was like, it's time to meet Donna again. And she's back home, like in my hometown. So I met with her like virtually, and I very specifically remembered it. And she said, we were just talking through some different things, and she was asking me about like habits and, foods and exercise and all the things. And we were talking about something, and pretty much for all of the time that I had seen her, I had been in college. I was still in grad school at the time we were talking, but I was about 6 months away. I was looking, down the highway of being like done with grad school and just like being where I'm at now, like without school. And she was asking like, what does that look like? What are you doing? And basically at the time I was working full-time, teaching full-time, and also doing grad school and also doing all these other things. And we were just talking about some things, and finally she just kind of stopped, and not in a mean way at all, but just in a very forward way. I'll never forget what she said. She said, Jonathan, this is your life. This is not just a college thing anymore. This is your life. your life is traveling, your life is crazy, you do a lot of things, not necessarily always on the same routine. This is your life. So you've got to figure out a way to make it work. And that would be my message to you creatives. This is your life. This is our lives. We have to find a way to make it work. You have to find a way to acknowledge your health. You have to find a way to acknowledge your finances. You can't put it off for another 10 years. This is our life. It's our one life. This is not the dress rehearsal. This is it. We have to find a way to make this the best it can be. And I'm here to tell you, it can be whatever you have, it can be better. It can be better. And it can be better through the work of your hand and through other people around you, right? That's what we're here to do. We're here to create this community of musicians, artists, educators, entrepreneurs, performers, anyone in a creative career, to create this group of people who really believe we were made for more than whatever it is that you're standing in right now. You could have a great gig right now. You could love your job, and still, I believe there's more for you. The best is yet to come. So, kind of bounced all over the wall today. This is the first episode. We're still kind of getting in the hang of things. But what I want you to take away is that stage and strategy what I want you to take away. We've kind of bounced all over the walls today. So let's hone it in just real quick. Stage and strategy, for what it is I want you to hear that it is the bridge between innovation, between business, between making a living for yourself, and creativity and artistry and high level artistry. They can both coexist. You don't have to give up making money to be a great artist. You don't have to give up artistry to make money. We can have both. You can have your cake and eat it too, but we have to reframe some of the ways that we think about our craft, our time, our money, our industries, the people we spend our time with, the things we spend our time doing. We have to create the life we want. And so this is just the beginning. It's kind of crazy. And you're probably thinking this guy's insane. Yeah, basically that's 100% the truth. But I hope you stick along for the ride. I hope you find some nuggets of truth and belief coming through your speakers, coming through your phone, that you can do whatever it is you have your mindset to do. You can see your dream come to pass. You were made for more. You were endowed by God, the Creator, to be everything He put inside of you. So go with passion, go forth in excitement. I am so excited for where this podcast is going to take us. I've got some great guests lined up. Tune in for our next episode. These are going to drop every 2 weeks, and I already have the next episode scheduled out. I'm not going to tell you who's the guest on it, but I'm so excited for you to hear this episode, because then it won't just be me rambling for like 30 minutes. And guys, I'm so excited you're on this ride with me. This has been, I hope, an encouraging part of your day, an encouraging time for you, and I hope you'll come back for the next episode. I also hope you'll follow me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, and as we'll continue to talk about in our journey for the Stage and Strategy podcast, I am on my journey of being a content creator and being a thought leader in this space. So I would love to engage with you on there. Go find me on Instagram at Jonathan_Martin_music. And honestly, I think it's the same on TikTok, but I'll have to check because I don't really recall. But you can find me on both at Jonathan Martin Music, I believe, on both. But for sure on Instagram. Guys, I'm so excited. I hope you hear that in my voice. I'm so excited. I hope you come back for episode 2 that'll be dropping soon. And I hope you follow along for the Stage and Strategy podcast, because this is going to be life-changing. All right? This has been episode 1 of the Stage and Strategy podcast. We'll see you guys soon.